All right, back in the shop, working on the 8-horse Mogul project again. Summer went by pretty fast. Going to get this bearing out of here. There's part of a Babbitt bearing. I think it's just straight lead from poured from the factory. So need to get that out of there. It's pretty worn, and we're going to recast that bearing in place in another video. So I'm going to use an old screwdriver here and pop it out of there. It's just in very bad shape, so it comes out pretty easily. I think this bearing was poured improperly at the factory, and we'll talk about why I think that is in a little bit. But there it is, popped out of there pretty easily, and get a little close-up of that. You can see it's pretty worn. We're going to be replacing that bearing. So on to the next part. You do a little work on this oil passage here. There's a drip oiler that goes right there where that drill bit is, and that's what oils that bearing that we're going to have to pour. And there was a piece of cast in there that was blocking the bottom, about 2/3 of the bottom. And I think what happened is at the factory, when they drilled that casting out, they ended up, as they broke through, they chipped or broke a drill bit, and just didn't take the time to go ahead and chase it one more time. They just went with it, and that kind of happens sometimes on these engines. There's not very good quality control in some cases in those days, and they just kind of went with whatever happened. So there's some casting there, and it's quite hard actually. I think that was probably a hard spot in the casting. It's a cold spot, and it got really hard when it cooled, and just chipped that original drill bit when they went in there. And so now I got all the way through, and I'm going to clean that up a little bit more. I want to take it to a clearance size for a 1/4-inch pipe thread. So got a drawer of old drill bits that I can just abuse, and if I break one, it's not a big deal. It's not my nice index set, so I'm going to just keep reaming this hole out a little bit here. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want it as big as it can be, because we're going to have to pour the bearing through there. And that molten Babbitt, you need to keep it flowing pretty fast or it'll set up, and then you just got to redo it again. So just going to keep running this back and forth a little bit and get that cleaned up. Back in those days, it was pretty common to have worn tools, especially like taps and dies, and I run into quite a bit of threads that aren't quite correct, and I have to chase them again to get them to fit right. So it doesn't surprise me that this sort of thing happened here, and you just deal with it and make it right, and things will work a lot better later on. There we go. We're all done with that. Now we're going to move on to looking at some sideshaft parts. Let's take a look at some sideshaft parts. Remember, these were all painted. They were all primed. I took them and cleaned them with paint stripper and then blast cabinet. And there's close up of the gear. I got to fix that one tooth there about 11 o'clock. But other than that, I think they look pretty good. And we'll just keep cleaning, and then we'll be ready to put that shaft together here one of these days. Going to shift gears now and work on the Atlas press. If you remember, I have a number 3 Atlas mandrel press, and I'm going to get it back to working order. It was outside for a number of years, so it's stuck. So here's the headpiece of that press. We're going to disassemble it. I'm going to paint it actually, so I need to get it apart. I've been soaking it with Croil, and boy, that's really good stuff. They should sponsor this channel because it just works wonderful. It's very expensive. It's about $35 for a 16-ounce can, but boy, it sure does work good. Lets the parts just come right apart. Took all the set screws out of everything here a little bit ago, and it just comes apart. That casting looks like it's wet, and because it actually is, because that Croil creeps around on this cast iron. They call it the oil that creeps, and boy, it sure does. It just will cover a complete casting. So I'm going to have to deal with that and before I paint it, because it's quite oily right now. So I pull that mandrel out of there. It's a rack and pinion type arrangement, and set that off to the side. We're going to work on getting this handle counterweight off of there, along with that press mechanism there. It's quite heavy. I think that counterweight's probably about 40 pounds. Be enough to smash a finger pretty good, so I'm just going to be real careful here. This actually takes quite a bit of while. About got my finger there. That was pretty close. Parts aren't real heavy, but they're heavy enough that they'd flat smash a finger. So I just got to take my time here and just not get hurt. It's not worth getting hurt over. So pull that collar off the end of that shaft. So maybe I can slide both pieces off together. Just really don't know here. I may have to clean that shaft up on the end, but we'll give it a go here. That main shaft in there is going to stay in there because the two gears that are on it are pressed on it, so I'm not going to take that apart. There's no need. This press is in very good shape. All the bearing surfaces and bores and everything are just almost perfect. They show very little wear. So the only damage is to the base. There's some cracking in that, and then the mandrel itself, somebody's hit it with a hammer a few times, so I'm going to have to dress that up. But the rest of it's in pretty good shape. So just got to get it apart, get it cleaned, and get that oil off of there. So let's talk about that a little bit while I struggle on getting this thing apart. This cast iron is very porous, so you have to clean that and put a deep clean on it before you paint it, or you're just wasting your time. So the way I do it is I get this casting strip down here, and I'll wheel it outside, and I'll use a brush and paint on just laundry detergent. I prefer Era laundry detergent. It just seems to work real well, and it stays on the casting. It doesn't run off because it's pretty thick. So I'll just paint that on there, let it set out in the sun and dry, and then I'll come back in with a brush and some water and scrub it, rinse it off, and let it dry, and then repeat. And I'll know that I'm done when in the drying process. If it flash rusts, I know that I've got the oil pulled out of the casting. And we'll look at that here in a little bit. I'll show you what that looks like. But then I know that it's clean, and then I just have to clean it up with a buffing wheel. And then before I paint it, I will wash it down with rubbing alcohol and let that dry, and then I will paint it immediately because it will flash rust in just a few minutes. That's my process. It works really well, and I've never had paint come off, so that's what I do. So well, we're still struggling with this, getting this all apart here. I'm going to try to move that shaft back. This is just a process. I've never taken one of these apart before, so just kind of winging it here, and I don't want to break anything, certainly, but I don't want to have anything go flying off and fall on my foot or smash a finger either, so I'm just kind of taking my time. But anyway, it's just a process, and we'll get her taken apart. Fast forward about 20 minutes, and just an obnoxious thing to work on. Trying to get this counterweight off of here without breaking it and breaking my fingers as well. So just working it back and forth here. I got that one piece moved out far enough that I think I can get it off here. Just make it a lot simpler if I could just get those separated. So up there it goes. So be a lot less dangerous now. Now we'll just get this other piece off of here. That shaft, I think, is either a little bit tapered on the end from wear or just rust or something. It just doesn't want to come off of there. So get that hand wheel lock out of there while I try to figure out what I'm going to do here, and just keep working on it. Fast forward a few minutes. I've been working on this for about 25 minutes now, and I've been just using a file going around the end of this shaft here, kind of cleaning up the rust and the gunk and stuff off of it, trying to get that dog piece off of there. I think it's pretty close. It's just a tedious process. You don't want to break anything or get impatient with it. So it's still soaked with oil, so it's quite slick and a little bit dangerous there. It'd be a pretty big piece to drop on your foot, so just going to take my time here and clean this up one more time here, see if I can get it to come off. Okay, let's try it one more time, see if we can get this piece off of here. It's working back and forth pretty well now. It's just rotate it on that shaft there and see if we can get it to work off. Once again, it's quite a heavy part. I don't want to drop it. So, well, there we go. So, success. Alright, well, we're outside here. I've been cleaning on this casting. You remember how oily it was. It doesn't look oily now. That's because I've been using my laundry detergent method. It took me about 2 days, and I've got it down to where you can see it's flash rust in there, so it's pretty clean. I'm using a right angle air grinder with a buffing wheel to go ahead and clean the casting completely up. I've got face shield, welder's cap, and my 3M breathing mask on. It's just not something to mess with. This paint tested negative for lead, but I just operate like everything's lead. This cast iron, when you go grinding and buffing on it, it particulates off, and it's quite a nasty dust that it makes in itself, not to mention the paint as well. So I just cover up and protect there just as a level of caution. This process took about an hour and a half to just go over this big casting and clean it up, but it will shine up quite well and it'll be ready to paint. My final step for prepping is to wash it down with rubbing alcohol, and then as soon as that alcohol dries, then I go ahead and paint it. But today we're just getting it cleaned up. Well, here's how the mandrel press casting cleaned up after the buffing wheel. Took about an hour and a half to do that, but the casting turned out real nice. You can see it's starting to flash rust here just in the shop, so pretty content that I got all the oil out. That laundry detergent method works really well. Really, I'm pleased with that. So just gonna keep cleaning and maybe get some paint on it here one of these days. Well, that's the end of another video. This is video number 15 on the channel, so getting a few videos out there. Thanks for watching and keeping track of all this stuff with me. Sorry about taking so long on getting this video up. Just got busy with some summertime stuff. So next video we'll be getting ready to pour the lead bearing in the side shaft of the Mogul there that we took apart in this video, and then we might even throw some paint on the mandrel press. So thanks again for watching. Like and subscribe if you like the channel, and we'll see you next time.